Hello everyone, and welcome to another Tilt 5 Dev Hour. This time we have a very special session. We're going to be taking another look at the Godot engine, but more specifically, we are going to be taking a look at the Tilt 5 plugin for the Godot engine. And with me, while we go through this, I have some special guests, so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Why don't we start with Bastian?
Hello, everyone. My name is Bastian Leij. For those people who don't know me, I am the lead XR developer at Godot engine itself. So I try to be sort of the spoke in the wheel for everybody who is either volunteering their time or doing other things with Godot in relation to XR, and I'm trying to help out a little bit here today.
Malcolm, you're next.
Hi, I'm Malcolm, volunteer developer for Godot, working on the XR integrations.
And Patrick.
Yes, hi, I'm Patrick. I guess I'm the main programmer for the plugin. It's my hobby project, volunteer, so.
Wonderful. Thank you guys all so much for being here today. So to give everyone a rundown of what we're going to go through, we're going to go through getting the plugin, getting it into a project, just testing it out, making sure it all works, seeing how everything kind of comes together, and then we're going to dive into something Malcolm in particular has built that is kind of an additional tools that kind of facilitate getting started with projects and getting things going in a much quicker and more seamless way. So, to that end, the first thing that we are going to need to do is we are going to need to actually download the plugin. Now, an important note about the plugin that we'll be working with today, we've decided to be using the 4.2 version of Godot. There's only an RC out right now, but that is what we would recommend if you want to follow along yourself. I will put the link in chat. You can go ahead and use that link to go find the 4.2 RC1 download. Scroll all the way to the bottom. You'll find it there. The other thing you're going to need is, of course, the plugin. If you go to this second link right here, you will be brought to the GitHub release page where you'll be able to find the actual plugin. And I will go ahead and pull that up here. There you go. This should be the page you're brought to. The one you're going to want to click on is this top build right here, gdtilt5.zip. When you download that, that should have everything you need for the plugin incorporated in it. It looks like inside you'll probably see a 1.0 with an add-ons, Tilt5, and all of the lovely plugin stuff. You can go ahead and leave it as a zip. That's actually, we're just going to be importing the zip directly. And then later on, I will also include a link to the tools and how you can get those downloaded. For now, though, we are going to get things going with Godot. So I am going to get started with a fresh Godot project right here. We're going to do new project. Let's go to my desktop. No, that's not the right desktop. I love OneDrive. We'll just do that there. Sure. And then we're going to name this stream project. Perfect. Now, an important note for this first 1.0.0 version of the plugin, you're going to want to make sure your renderer is set to compatibility mode. We will be coming in the next version, I believe, 1.01, hopefully very soon, possibly even next week. We will be able to use the mobile and forward rendering, but for now, you have to use the compatibility. All right, once we get our scene going, it's time to get the plugin in. Now let's see if I can remember where the import is. I might have to call on some of you guys to remember where to import.
Asset library. You need to get to the asset library.
Asset library. Thank you. Right now, you can import from the asset library. Let's see. I should have it on my desktop, but it's not there, which means it's in my OneDrive desktop because OneDrive likes to insert itself. We are going to get the GD Tilt 5 zip. I'm going to make sure we want to ignore asset root so that we have just the add-ons folder coming in with Tilt 5 inside of it. And looks like everything is in there. So we'll go ahead and hit install. Give it a second. No worries. That's just a Godot thing. It may crash the first time you import it.
Still a release candidate. They're still working some kinks out.
No worries. We get back into the engine, and you may notice some failure to load scripts. Those are not a problem. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the project settings here, and we need to make sure our plugin is actually enabled. One other thing you're going to want to enable for your plugin is if you come down to rendering here. Is it rendering? No.
No,
it's
XR.
XR shaders. Make sure our shaders are enabled, and then we'll just go ahead and save and restart. That should get us all set up to do everything we need at a baseline. We have our project, we have the plugin in, now we're ready to start kind of making some things happen. First thing I'm going to do, just so I have something to work with, I'm going to add a sun, add an environment, just some baseline stuff. Let's kind of move this back a bit. Open the sky. Yeah, we'll have a sun going when we get to that. Now, the next thing we're going to need are going to be the Tilt 5 Manager and the Tilt 5 Game Board. So inside of your Tilt 5 add-on, underneath scenes, nope, not scenes. It's right under the base. Oh, I'm sorry. We want to... Is this what we want to do? Make a new Tilt 5 Manager node?
Yep. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to make a new T5 Manager as well as a new T5 Game Board node. These are going to be your two kind of core features for getting things going. The game board is, if you look down here, has a little model of the game board in it.
Yeah, press F, then it centers on the selected object.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, we have our little game board model here. This is going to be what your kind of content is always based around. Wherever this game board is, that is where your real world game board will show, like what your real world game board will show relative to the game. Now, the other thing we need to do is we need to make sure we have our start location assigned to that specific game board. With all that set up, technically speaking, we should be good to go with our main scene. I'm going to name this main. Let me rename my node. Make this our, where is it? Can't see it on my drop down. Oh,
I clicked the wrong one.
Where's my make main? There it is. That's weird. Set as main scene. Perfect. Now, let's make sure I have something to actually look at in this scene. Let's go ahead and add, let's see, what is it going to be? What is the base model?
Mesh instance.
Mesh, thank you. And let's just select the classic box mesh. Now you may notice this box mesh looks quite large relative to our board. This box is kind of the standard 1 unit by 1 unit by 1 unit. That is not a problem. What we want to do is we actually want to mess with our content scale. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually bump the content scale up to 10. The reason we're doing this, we want to make sure that the reference kind of between Tilt 5 and the Godot world, we want to try and not compress things down too much. Godot's physics engine works much better when everything is kind of working on a 1-unit scale. So instead of compressing all of our objects to fit on the board, we will instead change the scale of the content, expand our board, allow us to kind of fit more things into the same space. So if everything is working, and one important thing I almost forgot to add, we need an actual camera so we can see what's going on. Let's see. Put like 5, 3, and then let's rotate it down a little bit. Now, one challenge we're going to run into is if we turn this on, you should be able to see a cube, but unfortunately, you can't really tell that the glasses are working. I can come over to my glasses, take a look and see the cube, but for you guys, you're not really seeing anything that kind of shows the proof of it. So one thing I want to add, one nice little thing that Patrick has actually added into the plugin, we have some models right here that we can actually add in to our glasses. Now, right now, we are using the default XR rig as what's called the glasses scene. The glasses scene in this plugin is essentially what gets created when a new pair of glasses connects to the system. The XR rig is very useful, and it's actually what we're going to extend to be able to operate more in the future. So if we go into scenes here, we're going to add an inherited scene of the T5XR rig. We now have this new scene. I am going to go ahead and rename this like my player or something. Just like that. And you should see we have my player. The origin, this is essentially what your camera's position is always being based off of. So if the origin of this scene is moving, that means your camera's perspective is going to be moving around the world. That's how you would do panning, for example, in a scene, is you would move that origin around. The camera represents exactly what it sounds like, the actual camera for the glasses, and the wand should be following a tracked wand. Now, with this camera, we should be able to add a child scene for the glasses model. And under the wand, we'll add a child scene for the wand model. Once we save this as a new scene, make sure we're doing it back in our home directory. Now we have this My Player scene. We can go back to our main scene here, and let's see. Underneath the T5 Manager, we want to change the glasses scene away from the T5 XR rig. We're going to load My Player, and just like that, we should now be using the My Player scene instead of the XR rig. The reason this is important is if there's ever changes to the XR rig, you want to make sure you're inherited from it so you can pick up those changes without needing to redo your entire project, basically. Now, if I hit play, we should see, it doesn't look like much yet, but I should be able to move the glasses once they start tracking. There we go. If I move the glasses in, you can actually see the representation of where the glasses are in the world, right there around the cube. And we also have my wand right here moving around in the world. So, with all those steps, just like that, you should be able to get Tilt 5 working with Godot. Pretty simple. I think I want to take a moment right now to pause. I want to see if there are any questions from the chat. If anyone has any kind of getting started questions they want to ask, I would love to field some of those right now. In the meantime, while people might be thinking up those questions, Patrick, I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about what went into kind of making this plugin for the first time, because you've taken some of our native headers, and we hadn't really planned on there being a Godot plugin, but you said no, there needs to be one, and made it happen. Oh, I believe you might be muted, or my sound is not coming out.
Hey, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yeah. Yes, it's been quite an adventure. Yes, it's using the native C, and I've basically built a layer on top of that that's sort of engine agnostic that basically takes in background a lot of the polling of and connection to the glasses and stuff, and exposes those as events that's consumed at the upper level by Godot, by the Godot plugin itself. So
one thing I was really happy to see is right from the beginning you made sure to incorporate the idea of being able to have multiple glasses connected and instantiating all at the same time. That's one of the core features of the Tilt 5 system, we feel, being able to have that multiplayer environment in the scenario, in the scene. And you made that very fast and easy right from the beginning, which I'm very happy about.
yeah, it was definitely an important feature I was interested in, so I wanted to make sure that that was there. And really, it was not really possible until Godot 4. Godot 4 has all the things that we needed to get that done. So
Yeah, I definitely want to shout out the Godot engine too, making this a much easier process than some of the other engines have been. We've wanted to do multi-glasses in Unreal Engine, for example, but they insist on there only being one headset per system, no matter what. Which means if we want to do multi-headset, it's going to be quite a lot of work to make that happen ourselves.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, that one. It's we originally started down that path as well, single headset per installation, and it was interesting adding support for that to Godot 4 and finding a way to make that possible within the constraints of the current system.
We're very thankful you did. So, with this base project going, this is an easy way to get things displaying on the Tilt 5, and you can kind of have a project to start building things from. What I want to show off now is something that's been built out a little bit. I am going to pull up some demos that Malcolm has created that kind of showcase some different playstyles, interactions, and showcase kind of building out the game a little bit. So let me go ahead and pull those up now. I already have them loaded. You should also be able to find these. I'm actually going to get the link to the GitHub right now. Did I lose my link? Nope, there it is. Let's see, I'm going to post this in chat as well. Right here is the GitHub for the Tilt 5 tools. Now this has two different aspects to it. It has the in the add-ons, the Tilt 5 tools library, and then additional to that, we have the demos that you can use to see some of this kind of working together. Now, I have been messing around a little bit in this project, but if we come back to the main scene, which should be right here. You can see we have the Tilt 5 Manager here. I noticed there is no Tilt 5 game board. What was the what led to that setup, Malcolm?
So one of the issues with it lets you switch between different stages. So you basically, it's a stage. You've got different scenes you load in there. So each scene really wants to have, if you're using it to position objects in the game board, you're designing these different levels. You kind of want it there. Here is just after you build it all, you then present it in front of the user. So
makes sense. All right. So what we've got right now, we can see that the Tiltify Manager is set to load the player scene, but individually we have a set of different scenes here with different components to them. So we have this scene here, and the second scene like this, and then we have a third scene here. Now, Malcolm has created some additional tools that will be very useful, kind of a T5 tool scene. What would you call it? Class? T5 tool scene class that exists that you can kind of extend your base scenes off of. And you can specify, for example, specific things to spawn in the world that will be the receiver of your inputs. If you want to move a character around the world or fire somewhere, those kinds of things, that's what this kind of character scene is going to represent. Now, what I want to do is I want to give this a test, and fingers crossed, everything works just fine. Looking good. So we've got the scene loading up. You can see the wand here, and I can actually select between these different demos. I'm going to select Demo 1 right now. And you can see there's this little rolling ball. Wow, those are some aggressive sounds. Let's see, it looks like you've set the joystick hat button to jump. So we've got some rolling around, some jumping, some general environment stuff. Oops. This is hard to control from that direction. Because I'm not looking through the glasses. Alright, let's make it to the end of this scene. Let's take a look at another example. Let's see. So this one was designed as a tower defense, I believe, correct? Not a tower defense, a kind of base defense. Wow, those sounds. Yeah.
We got hard to hear the sounds, by the way, on our side. So
that's probably for the best. They're very loud.
We need the volume button.
For some reason, we're not getting any of the enemies spawning.
Probably because of the zoom thing that we're in. But aren't there supposed to be characters coming out of the spawn points, Malcolm?
Yes, there are.
All right.
Very curious. Well, why don't we just reload and try another scene?
You can actually pop the menu up, by the way, but it's only visible in the headset.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. I don't have my headset on right now. Let's go to scene 3 for now. This one, instead, we have the cute little Godot robot, and instead of a ball, this is more of a kind of an open platformer space to kind of explore around in. And if you go into any of the teleporter, that would end it. Let's see if Demo 2 is behaving. No? Maybe it broke something. Well, something to investigate, but not a worry. Malcolm, why don't you talk a little bit about the creation of these scenes? What was kind of the idea behind them? What went into creating them? What was some of the design paradigms that you used to kind of construct it, especially working with the Godot engine?
So, actually, a lot of this comes from Bastian's work. He started the original staging because for a while we had the regular VR stuff we were doing on Godot. Everyone was just doing a single scene, and the logic to switch in and out was getting to be a bit challenging. So Bastian put a bunch of effort in to build, again, the concept of the stage and the scene and swapping it out. graying out, dimming out one scene, loading in the other in the background, then bring it in. So when we started with this, it just seemed natural to build on top of that concept.
Wonderful. And then in terms of, for example, linking the wand buttons into the different objects and the player versus the character, how does that kind of interact together with the Godot engine?
So it makes moderate use of signals for this. What we have is obviously the main stage is where people have their headsets loaded in, the player objects. So each player joins the main scene, looks at the stage, and as you switch stages, the stage you construct characters for them. And there's a one-to-one relationship between a player and their associated character. So in this particular one here, you've got a character which is just a rigid body, and it has a little helper script in there that will obviously move it around. We have a little bit of extra in this guy. The integrate forces is detecting collisions and rolling speed and just using that to change the sounds in the background. We have on demo 3 a different character body, which is the GoBot, and again, it's got a script, and there is a customization of the script here just to hook up animations. So all of the base movement is in there, but we just detect, what the character body's doing and wire that up to play the animations on the screen.
Wonderful. And all of this stuff is available in the T5 tools, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
There's a README in there as well for getting started in an FAQ.
Wonderful. I see a great question from PuzzUD. How to handle elements that should only be visible to certain glasses. That is a wonderful question. So, kind of right from the beginning, we have some stuff we can mess with. I'm actually going to pull up. Whoa. Godot. Where'd my project settings go?
I don't know.
Well, let's, uh-oh. The engine seems a little unhappy.
Uh-oh. Is the input stuck?
That's not good. We'll try it the hard way. I'm sorry, Godot engine. Let's try that again. Defy test. So, in terms of handling different visibilities, that is kind of handled in a couple different places. Now, if we go into project settings, we will not go into project settings.
Why is that not coming in?
That's an interesting dilemma.
Open on a different screen, because that could explain why the interface is hanging if the project settings is opening up on the wrong screen.
Where is it hiding somewhere? I don't see it anywhere. That is very curious. Just looking under all the windows now. I don't know where our project settings are. That is very strange.
I don't see that happen before.
Well, let's not go through that way. Let's go through the other way.
Yeah, we can do it in your. That's a good one.
All right. I agree, Teddy Bear. The fact that it launches in a couple of seconds is absolutely amazing. Every time I had a Unity crash, I was in for another 5 minutes of loading, and if Unreal crashed, I probably just went to another project, because the load times on Unreal were absolutely ridiculous. All right, so back to our main scene. Let's take a look at our player. I believe here, if you look under so the player is what spawns kind of the camera and the wand and everything that's per player. So we can actually use the cull mask here to handle what is visible to different players. I'm afraid to click on this. Yep. Something is acting very strange with my dual monitor setup, and the streaming stuff I think is doing something kind of wacky with the menus.
That's not good.
Besides, it really doesn't like the any of the project menu stuff. Huh. Well, this is why it's an RC1.
Hold on, I'm just going to look something up real quick.
If it will maybe coming up in another window that I just can't see, because my computer layout is a little bit wacky. Let's keep it like that and go back to our main scene. Let's go back to our player. And we look at the camera. So right now, if we look at this, there are currently everyone and all players, as well as a different set of other layers. What's happened here is some of the layers have been labeled for different things, and you can use those player labels as a good way to kind of set what a camera can see and what is visible to what cameras.
Yeah, and one of the things that you then don't see here, because that one is set during runtime, is that like layers 10 through or 11 through 14 are currently reserved for the individual players. So we will enable on the camera for player 1 will enable layer 11, and on player 2 will enable 12, etc., etc. And that means that you can use those same layers when you add 3D objects to your scene and say, hey, if this is in layer 12, only player 2 can see it. While if it's in layer 3, all players can see it. And if it's layer 1, you can see it everywhere, including on the spectator camera. So that's how you use the different visual layers to determine who can see what objects.
I'm going to blame it on my NVIDIA card.
One thing that you can do, that's just something that I just looked up, is if you start Godot through the command line instead of double clicking on it, you can give it a parameter -- single - window, or -- single - window.
All Windows.
Wrong engine.
My OneDrive desktop should be there.
There we go.
Yeah. So just want the base one.
Yeah, so -- single - window. That stops the multi-window system from working and goes back to Godot's internal pop-up window handling. So hopefully that will keep them in here. We can quickly check if the project settings window now opens, if I'm correct.
There it is. No. Much better. Good to know.
So that keeps everything within the main window. It doesn't. So this is not actually a Windows window. It's Godot's internal window handling.
Yeah.
And there you can now see the. You might want to move that a bit more center to your screen, because our cameras are blocking it.
Yes, there we go. We have our underlayer names, 3D render. We have the first 3 layers just set to some useful everyone, spectator, all players stuff, and then we have these special layers down here for player 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's see. You can also, I believe it's also used here. You can do the same thing for physics if you want things to only be collidable for certain players. This is a very useful thing that Unity makes very difficult to track down different kind of physics collision layers. And making this very forward and exposed, I am personally a huge fan of. All right. The next thing I wanted to show off a little bit is how some of the input functions within these projects, because that can be a little bit of an interesting setup if you haven't used some of the messages before. So the input, what essentially happens is on the, let's see if I remember this correctly. I think on the XR rig base we have, no, it's not that. It's the, ooh, which one is it? Is it on this? So this is, remind me, Patrick, where are the connection points for the wand on button press stuff?
Are you looking for the names again? Those are actually are in the example project that on the repository and not in the plugin anyplace. That's an error on our part. We need to make sure that they are exposed someplace so people can find them.
Not just the names, but also where you might link the events to.
Oh, yes. So if you click on
I think it's
wand.
one. Yeah, in the scene.
Click on wand
and go to node.
Go to node.
Ah, yes. So the T5 controller 3D has the button pressed and button released, as well as vector 2 changed and float changed. These are the kind of what are they called? Messages? Not messages.
Yeah, signals.
Signals. Thank you. The signals you want to be subscribing to, listening to, connecting to. So I believe the way Malcolm has this set up here is underneath, not the character, it was the character body? No, not the body, the character controller, I think. Remind me where you had made those connections, Malcolm, if you remember.
So if you actually, unfortunately, control click on, if you scroll all the way to the top and you get the of the script you're looking at there. Actually,
Yep.
right here, this script here.
Yep.
I actually do them programmatically. It's in the ready function. So if you
Yep,
scroll down to
right
ready,
here.
I'm connecting them in code. It's a different way of doing it, just so that the user doesn't have to wire anything up themselves. Just the act of adding the script to an existing character body makes it work. But that means you don't want the user to have to click on everything and wire the stuff up.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what he's done here is he grabs first the player for a specific character. So this is a variable, a field that exists within a character, is a reference to its player. From that, in player, there are some get wand. There's a get wand function, a get origin, a couple of things. Get wand is what we want here because that allows us to reference the actual wand controller, and from there, he is connecting to the button pressed, button released, and input vector changed signals. And what he ends up kind of connecting to those are going to be these functions down here: on button pressed, on button released, and on input vector 2 changed. What comes in ends up being the string name of that button that is pressed, and then you can, or for example what's down here, the string name of the vector 2 that was changed. If it is the stick, then you can use that stick's value. In this case, it gets passed up to control, and I think fed into some other movement functions on the character controller. So if, for example, you wanted to set some input stuff for yourself, you can come into this character by controlled, and you can start messing with the on button released and on button pressed functions to kind of control what happens with different button presses. This is, a very useful setup. for input is handling things in more of an event-based style. So when an event happens, like a button is pressed, triggering some kind of output usually facilitates much more clean and smooth input processing as compared to some of the, for example, the original input system in Unity tended to use a poll-based system where every frame you have to check on the states of different buttons and say, is this button currently pressed? And that is frankly not the best way to handle input processing. You'd rather, as soon as you receive that input, fire something off to do some kind of action. Or every time a stick is changed, you want to use that value to facilitate movement.
Note that we have support for both, by the way. So if there is a situation where you want to poll, you can. But yeah, the signals are very powerful when used properly.
The next thing I wanted to look at, let's see if I can pull it up. Oh, I did want to, I'm just going to drop a little reference because right now it, as Patrick mentioned, lives in the project itself. But I'm just going to put a little reference for anyone who might catch this stream later as an easy reference for them. I'm guessing we could modify these to emit input events / actions to handle with our existing gamepad code. Bastian, do you have an answer to that question?
Sorry, say that again. I missed it.
PuzUD was asking, I'm guessing we could modify these to emit input events / actions to handle with our existing gamepad code.
In theory, yes, you could broadcast events back into Godot to use Godot's existing input map if you've already got an existing game. That's one way of doing it. The other way is to add logic to your existing script to read from the Tilt5 controller instead of whatever existing logic you have. But yeah, both are possible. Look it up.
Yeah, so I went ahead and grabbed this from the project just so people can see it here today. These are, so on the left side we just have some constants defined for easier reference, but the strings you might be looking for the different button names, if you're trying to compare for different button presses, A, B, X, Y, 1 and 2, those are all the pretty straightforward labeled buttons on the wand. The things that people may not be as familiar with, button 3 is the joystick hat button, and then button T5 we call the T5 home button, the menu button. This is a button that we highly recommend using to bring up menus. We all but reserve this button's function to be used for bringing up menus to exit games, things like that. There's also both the trigger, which acts as an axis, as well as a trigger click, which you can set in the project settings right here, Tilt5. You can set the trigger click threshold. This tells how far down the trigger needs to be to count as a click of the trigger. And then the stick is just the joystick. So these, if anyone wants to reference back to this video, I'm sure we'll also get some defines put into the plugin in a future version as well to make it easier to track down. Now, we've gone through the basics of how this project's set up. I want to do a little bit of a quick demo on how you might use the tools plugin in your project to kind of get some things started. To that end, I am going to go,
Ooh, that's a hard one.
All right.
Just...
Thank you. Good help. Let's see. I guess we'll do it again. We'll keep going with that. We're going to go back to our stream project. And we're going to go back to our asset lib. We have another add-on to import. I have Tilt 5 tools right here. Go ahead and install it. Wonderful. Oh, I made the classic mistake. I forgot to check ignore asset root. There we go. Now you'll see under add-ons, we also, in addition to Tilt 5, have Tilt 5 tools. Now this has both the staging scene here, as well as some base classes you can inherit from, like the player, the character, some other utility stuff, the character body, rigid body controller, some useful things to kind of get yourself started, as well as some scripts like facing the player, some pointers. But what I want to focus on today is just getting this project into a state to use the Tilt 5 tools. So I've already got our plugins all set up. We're going to make a new inherited scene, and we're going to inherit from the staging scene here. So this is going to become our new main scene. I'm gonna do lowercase main this time, and make sure we save that here. That's fine. We don't need that one. We'll make this our main scene. So now we have this base staging scene, and then the other thing we want to create is our player scene. So we're going to once again inherit. We're going to inherit from the player scene here. Go ahead and name this something like my player. Save this back in our root. We'll overwrite that one. Fine. Oh, that scene's still open. Try that again. There we go. Now, we've got our player set up. A couple things we want to make sure we handle. Back in the main, in our manager, we will... it's not in the manager, it's in the player. In my player, we need to... Wait, where is content scale? It's escaped me all of a sudden.
That's normally on the game board.
Oh, that's right. There's no game board in this scene.
So in this case, you set it on the origin of the player, I think.
Yep.
Yes, it's in the origin node on the rig.
Ah, there it is. So we'll update that scale to 10. There we go. That makes more sense. Go ahead and update the origin. We've got our custom player here. Let's go ahead and, as we did before, instantiate the glasses and the wand. This just makes tracking your own progress in the scene much easier. Now, the next thing we need to do, we're going to add, another inherited scene, and this one is going to inherit the scene. The reason for this is actually a T5 tool scene. This is where you want to start putting your world. This is going to be the scene that gets loaded, and it's going to be where everything kind of actually happens, I suppose. And then one final inherited scene, we need to, save it. And then we need one more inherited. We're going to inherit the character. This is going to be something that's actually movable in the scene. This is the thing that will get spawned when the individual scene starts. So save that as my character. All right, we got all that set up. In our character scene, we're going to add, let's add a character body. Let's see. Why is that unhappy? That's no shape. Duh. We need to add a collision shape and a mesh instance. And this one, we'll just make it a nice capsule. And then we'll also add a mesh instance. All right, so we got our character set up. We're gonna go back to our base scene, and here we can set what our actual character is going to be. It's going to be my character. What is this spawn location?
So if new players join the game, plug in a new headset while playing, that player will be added to the scene. But if you're in a party of a bunch of people, you've moved away from the origin, they might not know where you are. So you can choose new players spawn near the current player or at the origin back where everyone else loaded at the start of the scene, if you're going back to the beginning.
I see. Okay. Now let's, in this scene, add a couple things just to get, see, a static body that we will use. So here.
Now add collision shape and mesh again.
Thank you.
So in Godot, that's always split. You have a separate object that determines what sort of physics body it is, and then we reuse the same components to then determine what the collision shape is and what the visualization of the object is.
Just going to expand this manually for myself right now. Big ground, and then we'll also add a, what do we call it? A mesh instance. And we will go ahead and just make this one a quad mesh. Let's rotate it. That's roughly flat. Probably.
You can always look at a transform section and resize it.
Yeah, I just want something on the ground right now. I don't really care too much about the colliders. We'll worry about that on another day. Making things all line up properly. Let's make sure our scene has some light environment, just to make sure. Always good to have a little bit of sunlight so you can see what's going on. Now, the last thing we're missing is, I believe, we need to make sure this manager is loading my player. And then, what controls the scene to load? What spawns the actual scene?
I think it's on the root node.
Yeah, your stage has
is.
a starting scene.
Yeah. Perfect. Which I think
Don't you need also a spectator camera, or is that already in there?
I have not added that yet. That is going to be right here. So we have camera 3D. Let me just bump this up. Whoa. There it is. Turn it, angle it down. Hopefully that's okay. And I think that should be all we need. So we give it a play. Scene appears. An object appears. Glasses connect. Wand appears. The only thing that doesn't seem to be happening is movement.
Yes, I think our players inside of
the the character body 3D has to have the controller script added to it.
That is a good call out. Character body 3D. We need to add. It is under objects, controllers. This one.
Yep.
There we go. Character body controller, and then Bastion also pointed out something very important. My character was in fact deep in the scene. So let's go ahead and just take this and drop it down a little bit. All right. Let's give it a play. Character spawns. Glasses and wand. And he's moving! And just like that, we're able to get a moving character going in Godot. I call that a success. Wonderful. All right. So, thank you, Claire. We have pinned in this message the Godot release for the plugin. I've also put in the chat the Tilt5 tools repo. We'll also have some of this stuff available on the Tilt5 website soon, so you should be able to download right from there if you want to get the plugin directly from there. With the final 5 minutes we have in this stream today, I would like to open the floor up. If anyone in the chat has any questions about anything that you've seen today, or just questions for these people in general, you are welcome to jump into the chat, ask it. We would all be happy to answer. In the meantime, I wanted to thank all of you guys for coming out and helping me with this today. I'm really excited to see what happens next with Godot. I'm really excited to see how this plugin is coming along. Being able to use Godot as an alternative to some of the other engines is very exciting for me. I have spent a lot of time in Unity and Unreal as of late, and every engine has its frustrations. Godot, I'm very excited because it alleviates a lot of my concerns and problems I have with some of the other engines. So the possibilities are right there. A question for Patrick. What is the support level and intentions for Godot 3.x? And what is the support level for Android and Linux?
So there is a repository out there for Godot 3. It is pretty far behind. I don't think I've touched it in a year. I would... One of the main problems is that 3 is not going to support multiplayer. If there's a lot of demand for it, I could see bringing it up to date, but I really feel that probably it's 4 going forward. As far as Android and Linux, I have built. I'm really more waiting for the Linux versions of the 1.4 drivers from Tilt5, but I believe that a Linux version can get going pretty fast. Android, I am struggling with build issues on, but I believe that we could get there too. But it may be a couple of months out yet. So
I do believe that Linux for 1.4.1 was built today, so we should be able to get that to you shortly if that's something you want to work with, Patrick.
Sure.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Are there any other questions from the chat? General question for Godot folks, from someone coming from Unity. When migrating a project from Unity to Godot, should we expect assets, animations, VFX, etc. to import, need modifying, or is there no way? Looks like Cinti Studios, who makes tons of assets, says in their FAQ effectively, yeah, they might work, but don't ask us for help.
The bottom line is that obviously if everything is set up as Unity prefabs and things like that, that doesn't come over to Godot. It's depending on what the source files are, if they are FBX, GLB, etc., etc. Godot has very good importing for GLTF/GLB files. It has a decent importing for FBX files. So there's a lot of base assets that will import directly into Godot. Generally speaking, animations work. Again, it depends a little bit on what's in there. When you look at materials and when you look at visual effects, that is generally where there will be a a bunch of extra work to make things look the way that you want, because there are just limited compatibility sides to that. There's just differences in the way that Godot does certain things that you then need to set it up in Godot. So mileage will vary depending on how the source assets are are structured and what's in there. But generally speaking, the models and animations and all that, they tend to import just fine in Godot.
Cool. Thank you very much, Bastian. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to jump in with them. Before we wrap up, I did want to, I guess, probably better, Bastian, if you want to give a little explanation, shout out about the Godot Jam coming up for anyone who's interested.
So in a little under 2 weeks, the first weekend of December, we are planning to do our very first Godot XR Jam. It's basically, the first one is just to see how it goes and who joins, and just to have a bit of fun and get to know Godot and get to know Godot's XR capabilities. It's a weekend of just everybody coming together, building some things, submitting them, and sharing some fun together.
Wonderful. And if anyone is interested in doing anything specifically with Tilt 5, this video should be available. It'll be on our stream VODs for the next 2 weeks, but we're also going to try and pull it down and put it up on our YouTube so people can access it in the future. And if anyone is needing hardware to do some development, you can reach us. You can reach out to our DevRel at tilt5.com. They are available to kind of help facilitate getting some developer hardware releases for you to do a project for a Godot Jam. We're really excited to see what comes out of this game jam. So I think that is going to bring us to an end today. I want to once again thank the three of you for coming out. I'd love to thank everyone in the chat for joining in, asking all these questions, and have a wonderful day. Happy holograms, everyone.